The Brew House was created to capture and share with you the long history of the Genesee Brewery, but the brewery itself isn't half as interesting as the beer and the people who make it. Visit GeneseeBrewhouse.com. Hello, everyone, and welcome into the original Rochester Press Box, presented by the mighty Genesee Brew House. I'm Bill Pucko, and joined by Pat Duffy, as always, from the Breakroom. Okay.
Wait, what? I knew I'd chase Catalana off. I knew it was coming.
Instead of Mike, we have Kim Berntson joins us, also from the Breakroom. We're surrounded by, it's great to have you back.
Thank you.
And Josh Whetzel, who play-by-play long time for the Rochester Red Wings, but also, this is a neat double this year, the play-by-play man for the UB Bulls.
That's right.
Who were NCAA tournament.
2 years in a row, Bill.
Yeah, that's a fun league. I really enjoy that league. But tell me now, from the inside, you do this, you've been in that tournament now twice in a row. The whole thing, what wouldn't we know, not being on the inside of this whole NCAA tournament thing?
I don't know what you wouldn't know, but from a broadcaster perspective, one of the cool things is the NCAA, for all their faults, they do a great job of taking care of us poor radio guys courtside. You got 4 seats right there courtside. I've got more room at an NCAA tournament game than I have for a Buffalo regular season game. So they really take care of everything. If you have any issues whatsoever, somebody's right there on top of it to help you out. So it's a pretty cool deal, and the kids get a lot of neat swag out of it also.
Yeah, you guys take notes, right? Go, right?
Well, yeah, I know.
You know why they do that? So all the media guys that are there aren't going to torch the NCAA in their columns about how the NCAA is a double standard and things like that, right? Like we were talking about this a little bit off the air. How I feel awful for a team like UB because they're talented kids and they're hardworking kids and they're the best from every high school they come to. But the reality is, and they know it themselves, that when they get in this tournament, if they win a game, it's the greatest thing that's ever happened in that program, right? UB doesn't have a shot to make the Final Four. They don't have a shot to make the national championship. They do have a shot, but in reality, they don't. So let's take care of these people and make sure that nobody writes anything bad.
Yeah, but they get it back on the other side when they play the conference tournaments, because the conference tournament is everything to those schools.
What do you mean they get it back on the other side?
Well, you said they don't have the glory of the NCAA basketball tournament because they can't really think about winning it. But their conference tournaments are the whole world to them. So they get that experience.
Well, I think the conference tournaments are the whole world to them, though, because it is that chance to make the big tournament.
Yeah.
So I think that's why the conference tournaments hold so much more value.
You got a new coach at UB and back-to-back, conference championships. Is UB that good?
I think they're pretty good right now, yeah. Nate Oates did a great job. They've got a really talented coaching staff, a lot of good players that have come in there, and the program seems to be headed in the right direction. Another interesting nugget, by the way, and I maybe shouldn't even say this, speaking of swag, UB is a Nike school. All the guys got brand new Nike basketball shoes for the tournament with one caveat. They had to wear them in the game against Miami. So they were all wearing brand new shoes for that game. And I don't know if you noticed this, Bill, because I know you were focused on that game a lot. A couple of the guys, I think, changed their shoes at halftime because they weren't too thrilled with the field wearing brand new shoes in the biggest game of their life.
So funny. This has become like bigger, this whole tournament. And with Syracuse in it, it's just all consuming, isn't it?
Well, I do wonder for these teams like UB if it's a positive and a negative, because if you end up doing well, it highlights your coach. You look at teams like Stephen F. Austin. This coach is now on a big scale, and people see what he's capable of and what he's done with this program. Then he leaves and goes on to the next level. So I do wonder how many of these teams are a little worried about that happening.
Well, I mean, it happened with UB. Bobby Hurley has a couple of great seasons. All of a sudden, he's in Arizona State. And not only that, he takes the best player, arguably, on the UB basketball team with him. So, even when these teams get a little bit of traction, it's tough for them to move forward in any kind of way.
That's why it's tough to build a big program at that level. But in UB's case, they did have a good assistant coach waiting the wings in Nate Oates. And they put some money into the program to make sure they surrounded him with some really good assistants, and I think they have that ball rolling in the right direction.
So that's interesting. So that's the NCAA tournament. This is the original Rochester Press Box presented by the Genesee Brew House. We're going to talk about the baseball season coming up next. over 25 years, Hillside Work Scholarship Connection has empowered youth to embrace their dreams of college and careers. Thanks to a dedicated staff and employment partners, every year Hillside helps more than 4,000 young men and women move closer to their life goals. Welcome back to the original Rochester Press Box, presented by the Genesee Brew House. This portion brought to you by the Hillside family of agencies. Baseball season. You looking forward to it? Let's get started.
Well, I think the best part about baseball season is it's a sign of better weather to come. And, baseball is always the best in the beginning because everybody's looking forward to it. And you're not at that point in the season where it's like, wow, how much longer do we have to go here? And you kind of get a feel for what the teams are going to be like in the beginning, too. So I always look forward to baseball season. I think it's a lot of fun.
Does Breakroom get a lot of baseball discussion?
No, it's more of the food at the ballpark discussion, which
Yes.
personally is my favorite part. I mean, I love going and watching the Wings, but have you had the fried mashed potato balls? They're mashed potatoes, but
I
they
have
deep.
not.
Bro,
They're legit. They're good.
you know what I'm thank you.
They're good, yeah.
I like the gourmet macaroni. That's
Oh, with the pulled pork on top, Bill.
Yeah, that's
my
pretty good.
I saw you as just a traditional hot dog guy, Bill, no?
Yeah, I'm into the
Okay.
health
Oh.
food macaroni and
Oh,
cheese.
okay.
But you
All
do
right.
mention the food. It's become such a big thing at ballparks now. Everybody's trying to outdo each other. So, I mean, you see like those 1 pound sundaes that I forget what team has now, and then you hear now about another team that just has more and more ridiculous things coming down the line.
Except we realize that all sports are kind of like that. I went to the Daytona 500 of all the events, Daytona 500, NASCAR, and you realize that the race is just a backdrop for all the food that's going on. Because I knew the guy who managed the concessions, and this is a restaurant with a backdrop of a race. This is not a race with food. It's the other way. And Frontier's got that down pat.
Yeah,
I think.
we do a pretty good job with it over there, and they try to raise the bar every year as far as some new items they can bring to the menu. For example, fried mashed potato balls. I don't know what we
else
have in
is
store
that,
for
by
this
the way?
year.
As long as you brought it up, what's in that?
You just heard it. He said
Just
it.
One of
fried
them has
mashed
bits
potato?
of bacon
There
in
is
it, I
bacon.
think.
Yes, there is some bacon.
A few different dipping sauces. It's really good, yeah, and great for you.
But what's great about these minor league baseball teams, the Red Wings in particular, because like you said, they're nailing it, is I think these teams understand that the season can be a little bit of a grind. There's only so many diehard baseball fans that are going to live in your town. So let's make it an event with a background of a baseball game. So the diehard guys get what they want. They can keep their scorebooks. My kids can have a good time, enjoy watching Mitzi and Spikes and eating their food, and you're getting people going to the park.
And even at the major league level, I think a lot of the ballparks have done a good job of creating some social type areas, taking advantage of some wasted space in ballparks and creating some ticket packages that fans can take advantage of and come out and have a drink and just kind of hang out and enjoy the summer night. It's worked out pretty well.
Yeah, they're finding a way to make the perceived weakness of the game of baseball is that it's too slow. Plus, it doesn't have to be a Red Wings thing, Josh, but what are you most looking forward to seeing this baseball season?
Most of what I'm looking forward to is what happens with the Red Wings because I'm obviously pretty focused on that. But one thing I'm kind of interested in looking into this year is what happens with the Washington Nationals because they had a very disappointing season a year ago. I think for some reason this year they might surprise a few folks. And the Red Wings parent club, the Twins, I think this is a big season for them as a lot of those young guys start to develop and maybe get to the point where they can make a serious run in the American League Central.
Will we be any good?
I think the Red Wings should be good. On paper, I think the team's going to be very good to start the season, but you never know what happens as far as injuries and promotions and that sort of thing. When those things happen, it can change in a hurry.
Yeah, God, and those guys, Sano and Buxton, just right through. It's like,
Right.
what happened? Now there's who's the next guy? Is there another next guy?
Yeah, probably I guess the lead guy this year would be Max Kepler, who's 22 years old. He's from Germany, and he was the MVP of the Southern League last year. The Twins promoted him once that season was over. He's the first guy ever to appear in the big leagues who was born and raised in Germany. His parents were in the ballet in Berlin. His mom is from Texas. And so he started playing baseball as a little kid, and he was really raw when the Twins signed him as a 16-year-old, but apparently he's very, very good.
And he'll be playing in Rochester?
Yeah, he'll be the center fielder, should be.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Alrighty. This is the original Rochester Press Box presented by the Genesee Brew House. This portion brought to you by the Hillside family of agencies. Like it or not is next. As we go to break, it is time for the Turnbull Heating and Air Conditioning Trivia Question of the Week. When you're searching for a local heating and air conditioning contractor, look no further than one of the most reliable teams in the area at Turnbull Heating and Air Conditioning. Is called Turnbull at 343-2005. As we come back from the break, time for the answer to the Turnbull Heating and Air Conditioning Trivia Question of the Week. When you're searching for a local heating and air conditioning contractor, look no further than one of the most reliable teams in the area at Turnbull Heating and Air Conditioning. Just call 343-2005. See New York in a whole new way. Amtrak is offering a 15% discount for all travel inside New York State and to Montreal. Visit Amtrak.com for the See New York discount. Safe, comfortable, affordable, and easy. Amtrak. Enjoy the journey. Welcome back, and welcome to the original Rochester Press Box, presented by the Genesee Brew House. This portion brought to you by Amtrak Trains. Enjoy the journey. Like it or not, Carmelo Anthony since Syracuse.
I mean, I'll be honest. I can appreciate what Melo did at Syracuse, but there was one moment where I started not liking Syracuse. Was it Memphis they lost to? His first game ever in Syracuse? It was Memphis, right? Whatever the game was. When after the game, all of a sudden, all of his people said, well, Melo should have gone pro. And he had that great season in Syracuse. But you had a feeling that he was going to be overrated, and he wasn't that leader that everyone thought he was. I mean, he was kind of doughy at Syracuse anyway, right? It took him like 6 NBA seasons before he even looked like a legitimate athlete. The Knicks aren't going to win anything while he's there. Wherever he goes, unless he's a accompanying piece, no team that has him is going to win anything. And I don't get the NBA GM's fascination with him. Why they think he's some stopgap guaranteed championship guy all of a sudden.
Well, in his defense, I think my favorite Carmelo Anthony was the Carmelo Anthony that played with the Nuggets. I think he was much more exciting to watch, and I think he played a better role on that team than he does with the Knicks. I don't think he's necessarily a good leader, especially in a city like New York. But I will say, I think he's gotten to the point in his career now where he was just said that he was looking forward to playing in the Olympics because he can feel what it feels like to win again.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of sad when you're looking forward to just beating up on teams just to feel the glory that you once felt.
See, he won games in Denver. They were
Right,
playoff teams.
right.
I think every year he was there. You know, if you could have it back. You know, you can't have these things back, but you wonder if going to New York was a mistake.
Well, if I'm a Syracuse fan, I would always love Carmelo because if it's not for him, they don't win the national title. And if I'm Carmelo, just laugh all the way to the bank because he's made a lot of money in his career.
Kim, like it or not, the college women's basketball tournament and the dominance from UConn.
I like it now. I like to compare it to Ronda Rousey with the MMA. People were all focused on her. She was the face of the sport until she lost. And I think people watch the sport and they get interested in the sport because there's this dominant force, and they want to see them lose, and that's why they continue to watch. So for right now, I think it's great for the sport because I think people watch it to see how much they beat up on teams, but they're waiting for that moment for them to fall. And when that happens, I don't know who's going to replace them.
Yeah, but who's going to watch up to that point? I mean, whether it was one quarter score, the last game they played was, I think, 32-4.
Something like that. I think she has a good point, though, too. The more attention they get, the more girls like to play basketball, the more terrific prospects become to be developed. And that's important because when UConn started this run, there just weren't enough good women's players to go around. They've collected all of them, so they kill everybody. Now this year we've seen some not so great teams, at least seeding-wise, get into the Final Four. At least there's some different names this year. And so at some point I think UConn's at least going to be challenged. Still might be a few years, though.
Just quickly, do you think it's at all sexist? We didn't hate teams. We didn't hate male teams that dominated like this, but this team has really become a target.
It might be sexist in the opposite way because, I mean, there would have been no discussion if this wasn't a women's team. Like the fact that I'm being told I should care about what's going on at UConn, right? Listen, no offense, I don't like women's basketball. I don't think I should be forced to like women's basketball, and I don't like that ESPN is telling me every day that I'm a bad person for not liking women's basketball.
God, I think that's a great point.
Within women's basketball, there is a sexist element of it toward Gino Uriema, who's a male coach. A lot of women's coaches don't like UConn because they have a male head coach.
That's a whole nother show.
Yeah.
Because you see it all the way through. That's really interesting. We'll have to do that sometime. We'll have you back.
Oh, thanks.
This portion of the original Rochester Press Box is brought to you by Amtrak Trains. Enjoy the journey. Unfinished Business is next. The Rochester Press Box Stat of the Week, brought to you by Cariglio's Pizza, with 5 locations serving the Rochester area. Visit carigliospizza.com today.
burrito, the bigger the fun. Dunkin's new Grande Burrito, a breakfast burrito packed with big Southwest flavor. Go Grande with veggie or sausage today. America runs on Dunkin'.
You know, thinking about, of course, Yogi a few months ago and now Joe. So that completes it. You know, the 3 baseball Hall of Famers who lived on this block, 5700 block of Elizabeth, are now gone. But we will never, ever forget them. Never.
Hello and welcome back. This is the original Rochester Press Box. This portion brought to you by Dunkin' Donuts. America runs on Dunkin'. It's unfinished business. Go ahead, Pat.
I know I'm one of the only guys in this town that enjoys watching hockey and that it's not just Sabres stuff. But if you haven't been, something interesting is about to happen. Something that hasn't happened in, I believe, 46 years. This could be the first time in a long time that no Canadian team makes the Stanley Cup playoffs. And I could not be happier about that. There is no one happier about that than I am right now. Because if you're a Sabres fan that's ever gone to a game in Toronto or Montreal or Vancouver or Ottawa, they are so obnoxious. They lay claim to the sport. We invented it here. Yet you tell them, standing next to Rogers Center, that, well, we invented baseball. The Jays were in the playoffs last year. They're better than the Yankees. Listen, I'm going to sit and I'm going to watch a whole bunch of American teams take each other on. And I'm going to watch on Twitter all the people that are watching the CBC watching the American teams take each other on and complaining that the Canadians will be good at this point and the Leafs are tanking, but they're going to be just as good. And I'm going to laugh and enjoy it while I can. How long has it been since the Canadian teams won a Stanley Cup?
It's been a while.
Exactly. USA.
Well, they're just going to tell you. It says, the players are all Canadians.
Okay, great. The players are all Dominican that play for the Blue Jays. They can lay claim to nothing. I'm enjoying this. I don't care if it makes me a bad person. Let's go, America.
It really does make you a bad person. Go ahead, Josh.
Yeah, Canadians are the worst, aren't they? They are the worst. Nobody's more American than Joe Garagiola, even though he grew up in an Italian neighborhood on the Hill in St. Louis. And sadly, Joe Garagiola just passed away at the age of 90. Growing up, when I was watching the Game of the Week on Saturdays, that was pretty much your only outlet to watch TV on baseball or baseball on TV. And Joe Garagiola was one of the voices of baseball. He was a great player as a young guy with the Pirates. He became a great broadcaster, really one of the first players turned broadcasters. And he didn't just stick to sports. He also branched out and was the host of the Today Show. Was a real icon, I think. And I think it's important to remember a real great American classic, Joe Garagiola.
You know, it's funny. I thought, like Garagiola, between him and Yogi Berra, I thought, these guys are never gonna die. Although they're neighborhoods.
And they were great friends. They grew up literally neighbors in St.
really?
Louis.
These guys are never going to die.
Well, not because I wanted them to die. It's just because they were bigger than life.
Kind of like Bill Pucko and Mike Catalana.
Thank you.
Bill Pucko's never going to die.
That's what I'm saying.
Go ahead. Follow that up.
I know, right? It's been kind of a long-standing question. Does LeBron James have too much power in Cleveland? Well, I think it was pretty evident Tuesday night the Cavaliers were taking on the Houston Rockets. And LeBron James was sitting out just resting for the night, as NBA players will do. Well, the problem with that is that he was kind of coaching the team. You could see him on the sidelines yelling at players, running timeouts, running in between quarters. And where was the head coach to be found? Nowhere, because LeBron thought he was the coach that night. The problem with that is you got to give your coach a little bit of respect and a little bit of, and I'm not saying don't support your team, don't tell guys what they need to fix and things like that, but maybe keep it to the locker room, let your head coach shine. Otherwise, it's going to be a revolving door of coaches in Cleveland until you give that guy some respect. So you got to give respect to get it. LeBron, you're already in the spotlight. Maybe tone it back a little bit.
You said in retrospect, like how good Spoelstra was in Miami to actually have managed that whole situation as well as
all
he
the
did.
All-Stars, it really is amazing.
You guys who hate Canada, you got an opinion on LeBron James?
Well,
I like LeBron.
You would, you Canadian hating. I think that, to Kimmy's point, head coaches of them are basketball head coaches in the NBA are the most overrated of all the coaches of all college.
But they still have to have that image of a coach.
Okay, but
you can't have your player out coaching you, stepping on your toes on the sideline.
You don't think LeBron James knows more about that offense, the players he's playing against, what the time is supposed to be? I mean, Tyronn Lue, come on. There was a reason he sat as an assistant for what, a decade? I think Tyronn Lue, while LeBron is there, should just say, okay, your team, go ahead, you run this thing, because he's running it on the floor anyway.
But you can't do it in front of a million
Well,
people.
it's gonna be interesting to see how they wind up in the NBA playoffs. It'll be fascinating this year. This portion of the original Rochester Press Box Unfinished Business is brought to you by Dunkin' Donuts. America runs on Dunkin'. Thank you very much. Nice job.
Things I learned.
Canada.
Things I learned today. Canada's awful. Kimmy's wrong. You're never going to die.
Excellent. And you?
I've learned the same thing. I guess.
Josh, thank you very much.
Thank you. Let the record reflect, by the way, I don't really hate Canadians.
That's
Just
what,
Pat does.
that's what a Canadian hitter would say.
You were just rolling with the sentiment of the panel.
That's right.
Thank you very much for joining us on the original Rochester Press Box. We'll see you again next week.